So I was raised in a house of loving animals, the outdoors, nature. And when I went away to college at Case Western Reserve, which is a big research institution, I worked in a biology lab the entire time I was there. I also worked on the student newspaper. And in my senior year, I wrote an op-ed for the student newspaper wanting to do away with the LD50, the lethal dose 50 test. And I explained in the op-ed that as a leading research science university, we should be moving to the 21st century technologies. That we should be getting away from animal testing. We should be using more in vitro. We should be using more computer modeling, because Case Western is a huge computer school as well. And I just thought it made sense. And I actually got some pushback at the time. And I've gotten pushback ever since then. But what frustrated me by the time I got to the EPA as administrator, and this was in 2018, I wrote that op-ed in 1988, that if you looked at the state of animal testing and science, nothing had really changed from 1988 to 2017. We were still relying heavily on animal testing. And I got to the agency and I thought, I actually now have a bully pulpit and I can actually do something meaningful to impact animal testing. And I decided that I wanted to phase it out at the agency. The EPA historically has relied upon a lot of animal testing. They do a number of animal tests themselves, not as much as some of the other federal agencies, NIH, other agencies at the federal level, but a lot of the tests that they require for submissions from companies require animal testing. So all the new chemical registrations, the pesticide registrations, all that comes to the agency, and a number of animal tests were required for each of those. And I looked at that and I thought, science has really progressed, but we're stuck in a rut on the scientists themselves were used to analyzing animal test data. And that's what they knew. And it wasn't ever going to change unless somebody actually stepped in and made them change. So I decided to enact a ban on testing. And I have to say, I first asked my staff to draft a ban order for my signature. And it came back as a order for more testing of alternatives to animal testing. It didn't do anything to actually ban animal testing. And I said, no, this isn't what I wanted. So I drafted it myself. And I drafted it to actually be a little bit more aggressive than what I actually ended up signing. My original order that I drafted called for a complete ban by 2030. And at that point, I had some pushback from the staff at the agency, some of my politicals, but also some of the career staff, because again, they have relied upon animal testing since before the EPA was founded in 1971. So I had to do a little bit of compromise with the staff to make sure that everybody was comfortable with the direction we were going. So I increased the ban to 2035. Except unless there was a particular reason, administrator could approve a future use of an animal test if there's an absolute reason to have the test. But we put that into place, and we held 2 conferences. We held the first annual and the second annual, where we brought in experts to take a look at innovations in alternatives to animal testing. Signing that order was one of the proudest moments I had as EPA administrator. It meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to my mother, who had instilled a love for animals in me from a very young age. I was actually very happy that I was able to sign that. She passed away a year after I signed it, so I was very happy to get that done while she was still with us. But I actually I wrote the op-ed in my student newspaper and had it published the week of Mother's Day back in 1988, and then signed the order in her honor as well. So it's an issue that's meant a lot to me, and I've actually taken quite a bit of criticism from all sides. everything I did as EPA administrator was criticized by somebody, but that was something that I didn't have a lot of support at first. But organizations like White Coat Waste Project came forward and thanked me for what I did, and I've worked with them since to try to make sure that it's implemented and that it's implemented across the board. It's a little frustrating now. It's been, what, 3 years since I signed the order, and the current administration has taken away the dates. They actually got rid of the interim date, which was 2025, and the final date, which was 2035. They just say that they're moving forward to try to promote less animal testing. It's not going to change, and we're not going to move away from animal testing unless we have a hard and fast date. And until that is set in stone and is implemented, we're not going to move away from animal testing, because it's just too easy to continue to do business as usual. But there are better methods, and we don't have to rely on animal testing anymore. We can do the in vitro testing. We can use computer modeling to predict how a chemical is going to react. And until we have that actual hard and fast date, I'm just afraid that we're not going to completely do away with animal testing.